Conference, I now have the pleasure to pass the chair to Luke Akehurst. Luke.
Conference. Good morning. I'm Luke Akehurst. I'm a member of the National Executive, but I'm also very proud to be a ward councillor in the London Borough of Hackney. I'm joined here today by fellow councillors Ben, Josie, James, and of course by Caroline, who wants to say a few words just to start us off.
Thanks, Luke. We had some great successes in the local elections this year, and it's so great to have James and Josie and Ben here. Ben flying the flag in Dartmouth, Josie taking on the BNP and fighting for Labour getting the votes back in Barking and Dagenham, and James although I think elected in 2007, became the leader of the York Labour group in 2010 and won for Labour in 2011. And I think, James, you are the youngest council leader in the country, am I right?
In England.
Oh, in England, OK, not bad. Anyway, look, the other point about this session is this. We did well to increase the number of candidates that we stood in the local elections this year, but we're behind the Tories. They have 93% coverage across the country. Now, look, we need to make sure that we're encouraging people to want to become candidates for our party, because we haven't got a Labour name on the ballot paper, people can't vote Labour, and we've got to change that. So we're going to have a bit of a question and answer session, and hopefully these guys can inspire you to go away and think about standing yourself, but going away and encouraging others. Great.
Ben, can you tell us what it's like being the first Labour councillor in your area down in the southwest for 14 years?
It's an experience, but very rewarding. I never expected to win, but it just shows if you go out there, put in the work, you can, we can win anywhere. Because, like, since 18, I've never been able to vote for a Labour candidate in my local ward. So, if we put up candidates, there's pockets of support for Labour all over the country, which we're just not getting into, and we just need to put candidates up everywhere we can.
Right. And Josie, what was it like being part of Labour's amazing campaign to get rid of the BNP in Barking and Dagenham?
Well, it was a fantastic achievement for our community, our party, and for me personally. I was part of a team, a ward team, made of 2 other councillors, and we worked very hard, but we were part of a bigger team across our borough, working very hard, and we were joined by people from all over the country, making a stand against fascism and racism in this country. And one of the best parts of it and most rewarding parts of it for me was listening to people on the doorsteps, listening to my residents and the residents in the borough, and listening to their concerns and talking to them about their concerns. And that's, for me, was almost preparing me for my role as a councillor, because that's what I do as a councillor, listening to people and talking to people about their concerns.
Great. James, can you tell us a bit about the experience of being, I'll make sure that I get this correct, the youngest council leader in England?
It's exciting and it's daunting at the same time. I keep telling everyone that I didn't have any grey hair before being elected, but it really is an honour and a privilege that me, as an ordinary 29-year-old, you know, the son of a single-parent dinner lady, who was written off, you know, as growing up by the Conservatives, can become leader, the first Labour leader in almost a decade in a great city like York. It really is a privilege.
I was wondering if each of you can tell us why you became a councillor and what's the best thing about the job of being a councillor. Maybe if we start with James.
Sure. I wanted to be a councillor for the same reasons I entered politics and why I'm a member of this party. I want to play my part in creating a society where someone's hard work and talents determine the rewards that they get in life, and not the school you went to, not the family that you were born into. And the best thing about being a council and being a leader of a council is actually putting Labour values into action. We are, in local government in England, the Labour Party in government in England. And in York, we're reversing £1 million worth of cuts that were put in place by Conservatives and Liberal Democrats. We're using innovations such as turning our city centre Wi-Fi to help local businesses. And we've even set up an independent fairness commission led by the Archbishop of York, looking at how we create that fairer society. And that's what Labour does in local government.
Well, it may sound corny, but I actually wanted to make a difference, and it's amazing when you actually do make a difference, and it's amazing when somebody is sharing with you a problem and you're thinking, actually, I can help you with that, and I know how to resolve that situation. And it could be an individual coming with you with a complaint about a housing repair, or it could be changing council policy that will affect thousands of people in your borough. I'm chair of our Housing and Regeneration Committee, and putting tough questions and, you know, scrutinising tough things on behalf of your residents is really rewarding, and something why I became councillor.
Ben?
I got a tweet of Harriet Harman asking me to stand, so that's the reason I stood. And also the fact that I couldn't... The idea that going to my local polling station on May the 5th and not being able to vote for a Labour candidate was just ridiculous. It's just... We just need to stand everywhere, and... The best part of being a councillor is obviously the community work, going out there, speaking to people and getting on with things. And also, as the only Labour councillor on my district, I get supporters from all over the district, not just my ward, contacting me, asking me to help them and contact their local councillor. So it's yeah, really rewarding, and yeah.
So what would be helpful for everybody here is, what's your top tip or bit of advice that you'd give to someone who's thinking about becoming a councillor? James?
I would say be brave enough to do it. You know, this is a party that's going places, we're recapturing the centre ground, and there are no no-go areas. I mean, in York, for example, we won a ward. We took the leader of the council seat, a Liberal Democrat, his predecessor that had been in that ward 38 years, and you can go out there and you can do it. And working people need to have a voice in these tough times, and Labour and you are the only people that are going to give those people a voice. So stand up, be counted, get involved and do it.
Josie?
Just get involved. I was a party member for 15 years, and I thought I didn't really have the skills to stand, but after seeing the danger and what was happening in my community, I felt, you know, I must do something. I must stand against the BNP. And we need people to stand against the Tory cuts in our communities. So we really need people to stand and just get involved. It doesn't matter if you just join the party or you've been a party member for 30 years. You know, you have something to contribute, and we all have different skills that we can contribute in our council chambers. And
Ben?
Yeah, like the others say, just do it. Just go out there, stand, take the fight to the Tories and the Lib Dems in your wards. You might think you have little chance of winning, but who knows? You just put the fight up, and you get a lot of help. I put out on Twitter, and Stace Williams designed my leaflet for me, and I got it printed, and I even raised money on Twitter just to... People out there want Labour councillors, and all over the country, in the south and the southwest. We need to put the fight up, and we just need to put councillors up in every single ward we can.
Right. So, I wanted to say thank you to the hard-working councillors, not just the ones that are here up on the panel, but the many other councillors that are sat here in the room and maybe watching this at home, and the work that they do, not just for Labour, but for their communities and the people that they're there to represent. We've got a chance now, I think we've got time to take some questions from the floor. I'm going to take a couple of rounds of three. So can I see the guy right at the back with the tie on, stood up there? And then the lady holding the bag, and then the man with the rolled up agenda or whatever it is. Yeah, check shirt. Yeah, you just sat down when it was you that I was... Yeah, it's you, it's you. Sorry, I was trying to fit... I was running through a list of descriptors and I thought I'd nailed that one, but obviously not. OK, first question.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Mike Cllr, lone Labour councillor on Brentwood Borough Council. Thanks. Chair, Eric Pickles is my MP. That always sounds like a confessional.
You've got our sympathy.
Due to his ideological cuts agenda, we've lost our information centre, environmental services, and we almost lost our beloved town hall that was owned by the Queen in 1957. What message do you have for the people of Brentwood about the effect of Eric Pickles' cuts in his own backyard?
OK, next question.
Hi, I'm Kate Haig. I'm the leader of the Labour Group on Gloucester City Council. As we meet here today in Birmingham's High Court, they're hearing a judicial review into Gloucestershire County Council's disgraceful decision to close libraries in the most deprived wards in the county, not in Stow-on-the-Wold, but in my ward of Matson and Robinswood. Do you believe that cutting vital services like this will inflict damage on our communities?
OK, and then the final question.
Yeah, I'm John Bull. I'm leader of the Labour group on Bath and North East Somerset Council. And if you think that sounds like a desperate job, there are 5 of us. We hold the balance of power and we're holding the Lib Dems to account on who rule the council. My question is that I understand there are big changes proposed in council tax benefit and housing benefit, which are going to affect the most worst-off members of our communities. Would you like to comment on that and also tell us how, in Parliament, MPs and how we in councils can combat them?
OK, some really good questions there. James, do you want to come back on those first?
Well, it's not surprising that Eric Pickles wants cuts. I don't know whether you're aware there's a document called the Pickles Papers, which shows you the trials and tribulations of when he was leader of Bradford Council. And it shows that he's not a friend of local government at all. He wants these cuts, and he's using the cutting down of the deficit as an attack on local government. Also, in terms of cutting services, it obviously has an impact on our communities and on the services that people rely on. And we have to make sure that Labour in local government is standing up for the most vulnerable in our society, trying to protect services and trying to protect jobs. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is by winning the next general election and in local government being innovative to try and blunt the harshness of the cuts that are coming down from central government. But the housing benefit and the council tax changes is incredibly worrying. I've got a paper coming to my cabinet next week showing the impact of those changes in York. I've been talking about it with other leaders in Yorkshire and Humber, saying we need a regional coordination, and the party probably needs a national coordination over this issue. York has higher rents than the regional average, and therefore, by actually having a capping on the housing benefit, it's actually going to increase our homelessness dramatically. And these are ordinary, working people that are struggling. And I fear for also the taxing, as it were, of aspiration. Because if you're, in your 40s, you don't earn a lot and you're on housing benefit, but your child wants to go off to university, what's to stop, therefore, your property being seen as the government as under-occupied and therefore having your housing benefit cut, so you have to move house? That isn't fair, and that's what we need to stand against.
Josie, do you want to come in?
Yeah, on the cuts, we really need to get this message out on the doorsteps and let our residents know what's actually happening. As local councillors, we're best placed to do that, and letting people know that the actual effects and the real damage it's going to be causing to our communities, and it's going to hit every single one of us. Everyone's going to feel the pinch, and unfortunately, it's our councils that are having to make these tough decisions, and that leads me on to the libraries. We're having to being forced to make these really difficult decisions, and a Labour council will always try to protect services, and that's what we need to get across as Labour councillors. On housing, the housing benefit reforms that the Tory government is trying to push through, it's absolutely going to tear our society apart. We're going to end up with the haves living in one place and the have-nots living in another place, because they can't afford to live in certain areas. And that's what we're seeing in London. My committee, Housing and Regeneration Select Committee in our council, are currently looking at the poor conditions in the private rented sector, a completely unregulated sector at the moment, and that's where the government is hoping to push, people that can't afford at the moment to have live in social housing, and they've got no plan to help us with social housing, and it's a real problem that us as local councillors are facing, how to deal with social housing and also to protect our residents against cowboy landlords, really, who are having our residents live in absolutely awful conditions.
Okay. Ben.
On the cuts, it's, well, as I come from a Tory heartland in South Devon, so it's just important we take our message out there and just say, when they make excuses about, oh, well, the government are cutting our budgets, well, it's your government, you voted for them, you're a Tory councillor, you have to make these decisions because you wanted them to do this, and we just make sure that we just keep on fighting. And on the housing benefit, we have second homes down in South Devon, so there's a massive issue with their council tax rebate on second homes, and I know Cornwall County Council have just put through a motion about getting the government to change their plans. I think is it 80%? I think the Labour upped it from, they used to have a 50% discount, it's now 80%, and hopefully we should change it to they have no discount, because if you own a second home, you should pay full council tax. It's only fair.
Yeah, Caroline.
Just very quickly, I think I'm right in saying that even Conservative councillors in his own council are arguing against the closure of the sort of hall that town hall that everyone values in that part of the world. And I think it pretty much sums it up about Eric and the rest of the team in government at the moment. They know the price of everything and the value of nothing. That's what they're about. As to some of the other comments being made, look, we really need you to help us in Parliament, and one of the ways you can do that is by making sure you're providing us with the ammunition about what's going on where Tories and Liberal Democrats are making decisions. As everyone said, it's not easy tackling and dealing with these cuts being imposed on local government, but there are quite horrendous stories, and we've heard some today, about how the Tories and Liberal Democrats have gone about things in a way which actually doesn't show any compassion, doesn't show any real strategy, and doesn't show any value for people who work in councils, or for that matter, the communities they're meant to serve.
Okay, I think we've got time to take another round of 3 questions. So, the delegate in red over there, the man waving his arms doing kind of semaphore or something over there, and the woman in the striped top there. Where's the first?
Thank you. My name's Hannah. I'm from Chelmsford in Essex. I'm not lucky enough to live in an area of a Labour area. My local Labour Party worked tirelessly to win seats, but to no avail. I stood in the local elections in May in the ward that I live in, a ward of mainly working class people, and I lost by 200 votes, which is actually only 100 votes. Even the working class people in my area think it's okay to vote to the Tories, and I think it's because they are scared. We have one lonely councillor, and in May we had the support of Ed Balls, our campaigning guru, who came to our area and campaigned locally. We were thrilled to have a high-profile Labour MP helping us, and I think it made a hell of a lot of difference. We welcome the support of this kind, and we really want you to help us, the bigwigs, to help us nurture these red shoots that are appearing in this horrendous sea of blue.
Great. OK, the second one.
Good morning, conference. My name is John Harvey. I'm from Buckingham, and I'm a town councillor. And we have 8 of the 17 councillors are declared Labour councillors. And with the help of independents, we more or less run the place. And I guess I want to speak up for town and parish councillors, because I think we're one of the big building blocks of refounding Labour. And in all those areas which are dominated by seas of blue at district and county level, that at local town and parish level, we have real opportunities to make a difference. We're organising events to build communities, we're clearing out the rivers, we're challenging the local district council with planning decisions. I set up the first online petition in our local area against a car parking charge. We're building links with the local community. And if those of you in the room who are not parish councillors or town councillors, please think of becoming so, because we can do a hell of a lot of good in our communities at that level. We can really hold local district, Tory districts, Lib Dem districts to account for their terrible decisions that they're imposing on local communities. So I guess what I'd like to say is to the panel is, what do you say about people becoming more town councillors and parish councillors? It would be good to have that affirmation from the NEC and beyond as well.
Yeah. And then the final question up there at the back.
Hello, I'm Lucy Hamilton from Weymouth and Portland Borough Council, recently elected in May this year. Just a quick word. I never thought of becoming a Labour councillor before, a year ago, and I would encourage everyone to think about it. And it's just a great team in the Labour Party, and it's fantastic to see, as part of refounding Labour, that we're going to get additional support in terms of training and materials for councils. Now, I think the question I wanted to ask was about the central government settlement, which I know is a serious big problem for our large metropolitan areas. And famously, Dorset hit the news when we were the only county in the country to get a rise. Now, that was good news for us in Dorset, because we were at the bottom of the league till then. Dorset is a big landing county. The borough of Weymouth and Portland, however, has one of the highest rates of teenage pregnancy in the country. We have an elderly population, which is great. And right now, our wealthy county councillor, our newly moneyed county council, is seeking to close daycare centres. And I've heard from colleagues here this week, comrades here this week, places like Hillingdon, where they're rationing pads, and I'm sure other councillors have horror stories. So how can we most effectively, as councillors, campaign on areas for which we don't directly have responsibility?
Okay. James, do you want to come in first?
Yeah, sure. The only way of campaigning and actually getting out there and getting the message across to people is door to door and street by street. We have to actually get really local and down into those local areas to show that we have credibility on the ground, and therefore have credibility to talk about the bigger issues. We have to also nurture our new candidates, and we're lucky in York. We have a lot of councillors and campaigners with some experience, but also we were given support by the local government association and so on, in terms of the messages, and from Caroline, in terms of what is happening in government that we could let people know about on the doorstep. But it is important also that we try and get more candidates into the town and parish councils. We have town and parish councils in York. And we have a couple of parish councillors there, but we can do more. And also, what is worrying is if we don't put up those candidates, the other parties do. And quite often in parish councils, there aren't any elections. There was only 2 contested elections in York for parish council, out of about 60 seats or so on. And some of those people that were elected completely without an election were members of the BNP that are using it as a method to be able to get into local government and give them credibility. And if I can stand as a councillor, if Lucy over there can stand as a councillor, and we can all be councillors, then everyone sitting in this room can stand up and be councillors and need to stand up and be counted.